and some,
So right here, sure.
Yeah.
Georgia. The first one.
Yeah.
John is, I think, I'm gonna be a Zoom, so. He said he was sitting around Chicago. Yeah. It sounded like he was going to lay some time to call in. I don't know. So. We shall see. Who else? This concerning. You can't read. Project. Yeah, how's. Yes, it's convenient for you. Yeah, you should. Yeah. Radio. Yeah. How's the thing that work? It's fine. Yeah, I've been by this, yeah.
yeah, so he's just, that was these, whatever the Mediterranean, we started in Italy, went down Croatia, Slovenia.
Did you get down to Greece?
Yes, so we went to
Kids are all.
Valencia.
Even at school, my son's like, oh, it's.
But then we went to Montenegro was great.
Yeah, I have recently.
It's good.
So.
Yeah.
See, we're gonna go. I know.
Yes. In July, there's that's the high season. It was crowded, like, they were closing down.
Oh, good. You didn't think it would come.
The rest.
The other cruise, if you go to river cruise, it's closed that year.
Yeah.
And all the big sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, we go to that now. Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, so,
Seven?
no,
No.
that's not as much as this.
So, so we're gonna call it like. So I will look at some of these. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, well.
How are you? Haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah, we're patients.
Hi.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
I don't wish it's. Okay. Yeah. It's okay to. That's Mexico.
We will sit.
I just wonder if this agents can never.
That's what I'm. And basically, it's a week. Oh, you know, well, back then. It looked like this. What's that?
That's another one that's just. I never thought brain street.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. I know what you were right. The first
At the time, I was looking at it.
You did? Yep.
Sorry.
You're good.
Our mayor.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just.
Well, I predicted.
First time.
Oh, I hate what they hate. This is how I feel.
Some people.
Response. They find it. I think you. What you want to hear? No. They're great. I know those well.
She's a terrific.
And she's chairing the board and finance.
Smart, but where do you guys live?
That's funny.
Oh, we come
I met you with Jack.
Right.
We're not looking for.
Yeah.
We own the whole.
We
support it. Yeah. Goldie comes all the yeah, I mean, I see. It's not, it's good.
It's good.
Oh, she has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the support. Yeah. So that's the neighbor. So that you can. You recognize people.
We stayed in front. Right, which was up there in the police department. Yeah.
My husband was.
Yeah. I know. We already.
Everyone made it over there.
Fix it.
in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Georgia seconds. Take a roll call vote. John,
Approved.
Rob,
Yes.
Georgia,
Yes.
Colleen, yes, John,
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Okay. Somebody here to present the application to us?
Yes, hello, Remco Bruker Design LLC here in Manchester. And the owner, Michael Kirk. See you again. And so we'd like to show this to you. Not sure. I think digital is probably difficult. I can do that right here if everybody's okay with that. I'll let Michael talk a little bit more about the project and where that started.
Yeah, my wife and I, we reside at 34 Vine Street. We purchased the 53 Summer maybe 6-7 months ago, and had to do a considerable amount to maintain the structure needed some work. And as part of that renovation, we're here to ask your consideration for the shed dormer. You know, our plans for the house are to house my parents who are aging out in Seattle. So we're hoping that this could be a convenient spot in town for them to spend some years. So Remco has designed a shed dormer to give us a little more headspace on the second floor.
Great, thank you. Construction had started, and then at that time, essentially downstairs had been configured. Upstairs was not configured quite as good as Mike would wanted, so the contractor contacted me. That's why construction started a little earlier than our application. But we have not done any work on the dormer area, so that's what we're really talking about today. It's a very small lot for that area. It's in District A, so it has large setbacks. And what we're dealing with is, in fact, Summer Street is here. The front yard line is right here. And so the entire house essentially sits in the front yard. The rear yard overlaps it as well. So again, the entire house is completely non-conforming. In fact, it's very close to the lot line, partially over there. And then on the side, the one area that it does conform is on the side on the east side. West side here, it's not conforming as well. So we knew that expanding the footprint also from the point of view of just the space that's on site is really not doable. And so we thought we could request to expand top floor a little bit in terms of headroom. So here you see the first floor. Again, we're not really touching that footprint. Renovations have happened, a lot of structural work on the inside. The area that we're requesting relief for is this hatched area right here. And that's the dormer, not exceeding the current height of the building. Ridge height stays the same. And we are expanding. This is the street side right here. We're just expanding it approximately 42 inches from the current unit line up, and then bringing that shed dormer back to the ridge. This shows you the rear that nobody will see, and this shows you the side that people will see as they're oncoming from Manchester towards Gloucester. Again, it's a fairly simple shed dormer with a few windows in it. We're trying to mimic the nice trim detail that the roof has, the building has, and keep it very much in keeping with what it is. Contractors talked to the neighbor immediately adjacent to this side here. She seems fine. She said, nobody will give you any trouble, so to speak. So we think we're in keeping with both the neighborhood as well as surrounding structures and people that live there.
Questions, John?
That's straightforward. No question.
No. No questions, John?
No questions.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this application? Just wait a minute, hold on, I gotta admit everyone. Unfortunately, this meeting was set up with the waiting room, so I have to admit people. Don't usually have them set up with a waiting room. What?
There's a lot of people waiting.
Can you see the, oh, no, you're not on. For people just joining. Wishes to speak on this application, or ask a question. If so, please raise your hand in Zoom. With that, we'll move to a motion. Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing. I move to close the public hearing and have the board enter into deliberations with respect to the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. John.
Approve.
Rob.
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
Colleen. Yes. Sean.
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. With that, I will make a motion. I move to approve the application of Mike Kirk for a special permit under section 7.2 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a roof dormer, which is approximately 25 feet by 10 feet on an existing non-conforming structure, which encroaches into the front, side, and rear setbacks on a non-conforming lot at 53 Summer Street, Assessor's Map number 14, lot number 8, in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025. Based on a finding, the proposed roof dormer is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, will not be substantially more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood in which it is located than the existing non-conforming dwelling, and the requirements under section 12.5.2 of the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met. Based on the condition, the roof dormer is constructed substantially in accordance with the following documents and plans prepared by Brooker Design LLC, dated October 10th, 2025. T 1.0 proposed site plan. E 1.0 existing plans and elevations. A 1.0 proposed floor plan. And A 2.0 proposed elevations and sections.
Sorry, that screen just turned off. Oh,
It's coming. The reverse.
Actually, I don't know.
They had problems in the meeting before me with it crashing, but then we were able to get it back.
Okay. Has that been happening a lot?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
oh my God.
I mean, this room is still showing on Zoom.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
it's just
good.
to be good. It's just for your sake to be able to see if
Okay.
someone's talking.
So we are on camera and we are being
Yeah,
broadcast.
exactly.
Just
So
to
you're
make
good
you
to
know.
keep going.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a second to the motion? John seconds. Any discussion? We good that it's not substantially more detrimental? in the existing house.
I think it looks a lot better having the dormer go all the way as opposed to just a portion.
Great, okay. Take a vote, John, Rob,
Yes.
Georgia,
Yes.
Sean,
Approved.
Sarah votes yes. Would somebody like to write this?
Oh, yes.
I'll review it.
Sean, okay. Georgia, who review? You got off that one, John.
I want to get on that one because I don't want to.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, Rick. I'll be back.
Pauletta, if you're on Zoom, is it possible for you to go in and eliminate the waiting room? Who's gonna be on? Okay. Next application is 48 Norwood Ave. We will consider this application for a variance and a special permit for a large accessory dwelling unit, ADU. Since this is our first ADU application before us, and the bylaw was just approved by the Attorney General in October, I'll give a brief explanation of the two types of ADUs allowed, each of which is a separate use under our bylaw. First, there's a standard accessory dwelling unit. It's allowed in all districts except the limited commercial district. It must conform with coverage and setback requirements and is not larger than the lesser of half the gross floor area of the existing dwelling, or 900 square feet. And only one per lot is allowed. It requires one off-street parking space if it's more than a half mile from the train station, and no parking spaces if it's within a half a mile. The other ADU use is a large accessory dwelling unit. It requires a special permit and is not allowed in districts D1, D2, G, and LCD. It must conform with coverage requirements and setback requirements for a primary structure. It is only allowed on a lot with a single-family residence. No more than one ADU per lot is allowed. They must meet the parking requirements, and it cannot be larger than the lesser of half the gross floor area of the existing dwelling, or 1,200 square feet. Okay, board's on board with that?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I move to open the public hearing for the application of David and Jane Metrano for a special permit under sections 9.1.3 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw, and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a 1,086 square foot large ADU, and variances under sections 9.1.3 and 12.3.3, and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a large ADU in District D1, which encroaches into the primary side and rear setbacks at 48 Norwood Ave, Assessors Map number 30, Assessors Map number 50, Lot number 19 in District D1, filed with the town clerk on October 16th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Georgia seconds. Roll call vote. John? Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Is somebody here to present the application?
I'm Veronica Hudson.
Hi.
This is our architect, please.
Veronica
This is
Hudson?
Dane and David.
Hi, okay.
Veronica Hobson, Taproot Design. So, we are also learning as the town is learning. So this is, so bear with us and we'll explain what's going on. In spite of the relief that we're here seeking tonight, we think that the Metranos are exactly the kind of family that this bylaw is meant to serve. As they enter the stage of life where multi-story independent living becomes more and more of a challenge, this bylaw affords them the ability to stay in their home, in their community, as their son and his family move into the main house, and they would take residence in the single floor ADU. They, Jane has been in this community. She's born and raised on that lot. The house has been in the family for 100 years. They are so embedded in this community, and so this is where they want to be. Sorry, it makes me emotional. I agree. I'm so sorry. Okay, so so what exists on the lot today? This is in the rear left corner of the lot. There's an existing two-car garage with another little room included in there. It's a little over 750 square feet. The additional room is a workshop, but once upon a time it was a preschool that James ran. And so and currently it sits 1.5 feet off of the left lot line, and it sits 2 feet off of the rear lot line. So the plan is the proposal is to demolish that structure. There's no proper foundation footing, just given the age of the structure, and to construct this new ADU for them. And in doing so, what we'd like to do is to pull it away from each of the lot lines to allow a 5-foot offset from both the left side and the rear. And this will allow circulation around the structure if there's any maintenance that's needed. And we are looking for dimensional relief from those setbacks. We feel that it's appropriate for the lot given the context. And can I just steal a corner of your? Sure. Yes. Okay. So this is a Lovex map, and so this is their home, and this is the current accessory structure in the back corner, and this is the shape of the lot. The grade climbs dramatically once you hit the rear lot line. This is an accessory structure here. This is the neighbor's primary structure here with an accessory structure actually closer to the road. The location of the existing structure, there's a lot of room around that structure, even as it sits, almost right on the line from the surrounding buildings. And so we, in order for this multi-generational family living situation to work, it has to work for everyone. And so what we are trying to do is to maintain some rear yard for family gatherings, for the children, the grandchildren to play. If we pull this structure completely away from the lot lines to conform to the setbacks, it literally obliterates the backyard. The other thing that it does is it crowds the house. So the visual density that it creates by moving it closer to the house is actually more detrimental, we feel, to the structure than keeping it in the rear left corner where it exists today, where there are no other structures in close proximity. So I apologize for these really fuzzy Google shots, but what I'm going to try and show you, if I can point it out, is this is the structure that we would be taking down. This is the main house here. This is their next door neighbor. These are the accessory structures of the houses behind. And this is where the grade dramatically climbs up, and you can see this very tall retaining wall right there. So again, this is the structure that would be removed. So it would be in this approximate location, but just pulled in a little bit, but accessory climbing steeply here. And that's a retaining wall. So again, this is the structure that would be replaced. And this is the structure here that would be replaced, and it really climbs dramatically here. So this would come this way just a little bit. This is the primary structure here. So we are looking to keep this structure in a similar location to the existing accessory for a host of reasons. We don't feel it's detrimental to any of the neighboring properties, that it remain kind of where it is. And it preserves a functional backyard for this multi-generational family to coexist together. We are asking for a larger footprint than the 900 square feet for the smaller ADU, but well under the large ADU. We have obviously a district challenge because we are D1, but within the spirit of that, if D1 were included in that large ADU, we would be still over 100 square feet underneath that limit. The reason for the extra square footage, it's easy to get an ADU with a single bedroom in 900 square feet, but it's near impossible to get it with 2 bedrooms. But given David's medical situation conditions, they really do need 2 separate bedrooms for them both to, you know, sleep well. And as you know, as you age, sleep becomes very, very important. So, so we are asking for relief from square footage as well. And I'm not sure if that is the variance piece or not, because I'm still kind of learning about this, but we asked for both the variance and the special permit just to make sure that we were covered and that the town was covered and whatever approvals might be granted. Happy to answer any questions that you have about the application.
The challenge we have is that when the ADU bylaw was created, it created 2 separate ADUs as 2 separate uses. So it has the standard and the large. And they excluded the large from District D1. And under our bylaw, the ZBA is not allowed to give a variance for a use. So in order to have the large ADU in this district, you need a variance, and we can't grant it. Which, you know, I agree. This makes sense. This is what we wanted. But unfortunately, the way the bylaw is, we can't grant a variance, but I think there are other options that you might want to consider. One is you could obviously decrease the size to 900, which you stated is a problem in order to get the 2 bedrooms. You could connect the ADU to the main structure via a covered walkway, and then it would be part of the primary structure, and you would need a variance for the 5 feet versus 10 feet for the setback. Another option is you can make the house 2-family, all integrate 2-family if you wanted. The other thing is, I'm going to suggest to the planning board that the town might consider amending the bylaw at the April town meeting to allow the large ADUs in districts D1 and D2 by special permit. I don't know if the planning board will entertain that, and I don't know if town meeting will pass it. So given all of those circumstances, I'm wondering if you wish to continue it to consider your own.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we would like to ask for a continuance. At this point, we can talk about the other 2 avenues. I think April feels like maybe a stretch. Needs are increasing. So, but
Right.
yeah, I think a continuance at this point, just so we can discuss and.
Okay. Does members of the board have questions?
No.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this application? If so, raise your hand in Zoom. Okay.
So,
Sarah,
sorry, go
I
ahead.
do have a question. Just to clarify for myself and maybe people in the public, so they are requesting 2 variances, one for the use of a
Yes.
ADU and then one for raising the building and relocating it.
No. No,
Variance
that's
to
not a
construct-
variance.
Okay, a variance to construct a new building containing the ADU, so that would be the use, and a variance to construct the building within the primary sub. I was just wondering, in my mind, the accessory building was already non-conforming.
Correct.
So would it be a variance for the use and then a special permit for it? This is a question I don't need the
No.
answer to now, but I was just wondering, they're already non-conforming, so I didn't know if they had.
The way the bylaw was written was that a large ADU has to conform with the setback.
Got it.
For a
Regardless,
primary structure, therefore, the existing nonconformity is for an accessory structure
Got it.
setback.
Okay.
So even though it's called an accessory structure,
okay.
And is there a square footage limitation on an accessory structure? Let's say it wasn't an ADU, if it was just an
No.
accessory structure, there's no limitation on that.
but you can't use it as a residence.
Right.
You can't, you know, you could have an accessory structure without a kitchen, and people could live there. Happens all the time. but
No
You can't hit the kitchen.
So it's the kitchen that's the trigger.
The stove, right?
Yeah, the stove is the trigger for the,
No, because if you don't have the stove, then it's not considered habitable because you can't cook.
okay.
You could have
So-
a wet bar, you could have a sink, dishwasher, but you can't.
Right, so I guess that, does that then pose a fourth option, which is if we remove the range
Mhm.
from the plan, then we would simply at that point be seeking a special permit then for the dimensional nonconformity.
Correct. Yep,
Okay,
yep, that's another option.
okay,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Sorry.
No, I know you didn't write it.
And are they our first ADU after the
Yeah.
bylaw passing? Okay,
Yeah.
And the Attorney General, I think, approved it on October 21st and changed the requirements for the standard ADUs.
Yeah.
Made them less restrictive,
Mhm.
but not for the large, but still. It's I think that what I've heard is when the planning board was doing the bylaw, the assumption was that because you can do a two-family, did you really need an ADU?
Mhm.
okay.
But I understand that if I had a young family in the house,
Yeah.
I would want to be detached.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No, okay.
Does that make sense? Do you have any questions?
You're okay with the continuance? Yeah, no choice.
Unfortunately, our hands are tied.
Right. So at the. Oh, good, waiting room's trying to. At the request of the applicant, I move to continue the public hearing to. I'm assuming you want it as soon as possible. It
Yes,
would be the
please.
December meeting,
Yes, please.
which would be, December 17th.
Okay,
To December 17th, 2025 at 7 PM.
7 PM.
And you would be, first on the agenda. We always do the continuances first.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Before you leave, I'd like a signature.
Can I sign it if you want, Jane and Gates?
That's fine. You can just put your name. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
on in. The next application we're going to consider is 22 Union Street for a height variance and a special permit for change of use in a non-conforming structure. The height restriction under our bylaw contains two restrictions. One is if you can sign into Zoom, then you can present on Zoom. It has two restrictions. One, it can't exceed 35 feet, which is the vertical distance measured from the average grade of the existing ground level, adjoining the building at each exterior wall to the highest point of the roof. It also cannot exceed 2.5 stories. A half story is defined as a floor level with a roof above. Most floors have roofs. And you measure it 4 feet high in the story, that's the third story, or the half story. And it cannot exceed 2/3 of the floor area of the level immediately below it. And that's why they're asking for a variance, because it's exceeding the 2/3 of the floor below. I just want to give him time to get logged in so that he can get it all right. There's no.
We get paid by the hour,
But
so we get paid by the hour.
can you share?
Yeah,
Do I have to do something?
I just sent a request.
Look on that screen.
Can somebody just hit that allow button on that screen? Thank you.
Thank you for your.
For some reason, it doesn't come up on mine. Okay. I move to open the public hearing for the application of 22 Union Street LLC for a special permit under sections 4 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to change to a change of use in a non-conforming structure from retail to retail and residential, and a variance under sections 5.5 and 12.3.3 and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a building with 3 stories instead of 2.5 stories, which does not exceed a height of 35 feet at 22 Union Street, Assessor's Map number 51, lot number 62 in District G, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Georgia seconds. Roll call vote. John?
Approve.
Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen? Yes. John?
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Would you like to present?
Thank you. Yes, we would. Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Ziger. I'm attorney at Choate Hall & Stewart in Boston. I'm here with Chris Stein of Van Stein Architects and Boardman Development, who is the chief primary architect on the project. We're very happy to be here tonight. A lot of effort has gone into this plan. As some of you may know, it has evolved. It started with a plan in May that contemplated a courtyard on the street. That was revised, moved before the Historic District Commission in July, and had a certificate of appropriateness for a 2-unit plan that was designed to comply with all of our dimensional requirements. During those hearings, there were really 2 pieces of criticism, 2 general themes that we heard from both town officials and citizens, which was we want commercial, and the second one was from some of the architectural community who really disfavored the break in the building facade. They felt that the streetscape should sort of remain intact And that a better design would not break the building apart from the new structure of the Gladstone building next door. And continue the streetscape, to have a more vibrant downtown feel. So the plan tonight really is meant to address both of those concerns head on. It guarantees at least some commercial space on the first floor and keep that facade intact. Sarah did an excellent job summarizing the need that's been requested. Our goal is here is to build a building that can last and adapt for generations to come, and really serve the needs of the community. So what we'd like to do is have Chris go through all of the architectural elements. Our board can ask questions, and then I can address the legal aspects of the special permit and variance after he's done. So, Brad, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Chris Vance of Boardman Development, also Vance Stein, business address of 85 San Fonso Drive, Beverly. I'm gonna work off this slide deck. I don't know if people want to turn and see the screen in the audience here, but I do have some printed for full slide deck. So here I'm just starting with the site survey of the existing conditions. I know that most of us are familiar with the 22 Union building, which is the former Cargo Unlimited building. You can see that the building itself, the footprint, takes up a pretty large portion of the site. It is an L shape here. There is a full basement under the west side of the building. And then there's a slab on grade single story
One of these chairs and turn it around.
east side.
Sorry.
That's okay. And there is a drive that accesses the back parking lot, which also services the drive for 18 Union, which is our neighbor here on the left, to their parking area. There is an existing fence here that limits access to the roof, because when you are on the back of the site, you can step right onto the roof of cargo building. We also have a shared wall with the Gladstone building here, Dan's property. And you can see that it's zero lot along the Union Street, so it's right on the sidewalks right on my after. So the next slide here is just showing some of the existing condition photos. When we purchased the property, we did understand sort of the extent of disarray and sort of lack of investment in the property to maintaining its current structural stability. If you go in there, I know a few of you joined us yesterday evening, but the roof is leaking. It's extremely deteriorated. There's a lot of mold that's starting to propagate, and the facade itself is starting to disintegrate. It was coated at some point in its life with a non-breathable paint, so it's actually disintegrating on the inside. So all that cast stone is just popping off and becoming a hazard. So these are some of the photos of the interior. So you can see the deterioration that's been taking place. The parapet's leaking. Water is flowing in through a lot of the fenestration. These are some of the images from the back of the property. So you can see, you can step right up onto the roof from the grade. And the upper left is the access drive to the back parking area. And the top right is that parking area that's also shared with 18U. Quickly, just going through a little bit of site context and where we derived our design from. We were in front of Historic. We worked pretty extensively with Historic Commission on our previous submission. What we're showing you tonight is not a deviation from what we did get a certificate of appropriateness for. All the details, the actual front elevation is virtually the same. We did add a infill commercial piece that I'll show you in a minute. But if we look at the context along Union Street, we do see a lot of 3-story, 2.5 large, 3rd-story, half-attic spaces, buildings that are along that. So sort of the mass and the context for the design is not out of place with the other structures along Union and Central. So this is a proposed site plan. It's a little confusing to read because it also shows the existing floor plan or floor plate of cargo. So we are proposing that there'll be 6 parking spaces that are dedicated to the residential units. So each residential unit will get 2 parking spaces. And it's an open air parking, but it's under the 3rd floor. So you would pull up and under the 3rd floor, and I'll show you in the renderings and elevations in a bit here. Our footprint is smaller than the current cargo footprint. We've done this purposely to reduce the mass, but also to make the parking work. It's one of the reasons that we do need to ask for a variance today, because if you're only allowed 2/3 for the half story of the floor plate below, and because we have a truncated smaller floor plate, to accommodate the parking, we had to make a larger 3rd floor. Otherwise, you'll see in the sections, we'd have like a studio, 1 bed, it just wouldn't function for the use. So our new plan, we are proposing to pull the building forward so that, as Adam was explaining, working with town officials and hearing from the public, that we did not want to break up that pedestrian retail realm. So we've pulled the building forward. We are required to have a 5-yard setback per zoning, but the building's already non-conforming. And we've continued that front facade at the grade level, and I'll show you in the elevation here. So this is sort of looking down again at that site plan. We do have some undulation as the front elevation works up Union Street. So there's a little bit of relief. It won't be sitting as tight as the cargo building does currently. So it actually give more of a friendly pedestrian feel as you walk. You won't be feeling like you're right up against the building. And you'll see in the renderings and the elevations how that works. What's that? Oh, yeah. And then the far right front corner where it says roof terrace, that's actually the commercial space. So it's a 1-story commercial space. I'll show you in the elevation. We've also designed the building to make the entry and exit for the driveway safer. Currently, as you come down the drive, the visibility to the left is almost non-existent. You have to pull out onto the sidewalk. So we've canted the building so that it actually opens up your view for that left-hand visibility. And we've also increased the width of that drive from 10, right now it's 10 feet. We're increasing it to 12 feet. So it's actually going to be wider and safer than the current condition. So this is the street level 1st floor. So you can see here we have the commercial space that's on the right-hand side, which has the shared party wall with Gladstone. And then you can see that the 1st floor is broken up into 3 units. We're leaving this as more of a flex space, so that could potentially serve as residential or commercial, which we can talk more about later in the presentation. And then you can also see how that elevation undulates as it's working its way down Union Street to the access drive, and how it's canted at the far left corner. So this is moving up to the 2nd floor, which is really the 1st floor living space for the residential units. And you can see how the floor plate has been condensed so that we can fit the parking and have adequate turning radiuses so you get in and out of parking spaces. And then the commercial space is 1 story. So here up at the 2nd floor, it's a roof terrace for unit number 3, which is on the right side there. And then this is the 3rd floor. So here, this is why we're asking for a variance, so that we can get adequate sized bedrooms up on the 3rd floor for the units. So you can see unit 1, 2, and 3. And I do have the square footages of each unit and the gross floor area of the building on the right charts. I do have 2 charts, one showing if all 3 floors were built out for residential, or if we only built out 2 floors for residential and had the 1st floor for commercial or home occupancy or that use. This elevation here is looking at our immediate abutters and the height context to our abutters. So we are allowed 35 feet from the average grade. We're actually only 31 feet from the average grade. So we purposely, in working with our abutters, lowered the roof to not max it out so that we did not feel out of context with the streetscape. So you can see 18 Union on the left. Their roof is higher than what we're proposing here. That elevation is at 62.6 and we're at 59. So that's from our datum points. So, you know, by right, we could go up another 4 feet, but we're not. We're trying to keep the massing in context with the rest of the street. And here you can also see that the design at the ground level was intentionally made to look like retail storefronts. So in keeping with that pedestrian retail elevation. So then when you move up to the second floor, it has double hung windows, more of a residential field. So to keep in that sort of mixed use design elements. This is looking at the landscape plan. The landscape plan's minimal. We do have a small landscape area on the parking area. It can also be used for snow plowing and piling up snow during the winter months. There is some landscape down at Union Street where we have the break in the facade. So you will get some additional green elements there, looking at various shrubs and trees. And we have them called out there in the proposed plant list. We also did a photometric study to look at the light impacts. So here it's very hard to see at this scale, but this is looking at the lumen levels around the building based on the proposed lights that we've specified. And you can see that everything's dark sky and also at zero cutoff when you get to the property line. So there's no light spilling over our property into the butters properties. So we worked carefully with our lighting consultant to make sure that we're not lighting up the other properties around us. So this section here of the building really illustrates why we need to go for the variance. You can see that the first floor at the street level is where we have that flex space, and you move up to the second floor where we have the first living area for the units. And then you move up to the third floor. Well, if we were only allowed to be 2/3 of the floor below, we'd really only have a small little bedroom up on that half story. So, you know, we really need to expand that half story to a full floor. So we end up with 3 floors, but
That was fun.
Larry, can you just tell me what's the TV again?
sorry.
You'll have to let them know that this happens.
I will.
Sue, can you sue?
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. I'll let everyone know, don't worry. I'll let the select board know.
Yeah, we're all over that.
Should be muted.
Thank you.
Don't go too far.
Oh, yeah, so I was just explaining that, you know, we need the full third floor so that we can have adequate sized bedrooms and bedrooms for, you know, creating units that are marketable. You can see the slope actually creates a pretty unique condition so that when you're in back of the building and you look at that elevation, we really only look like a 1.5 story or about 25 feet from that parking area to the roof line. So it's really when you're on Union Street side that you do see the full sort of elevation. We've designed in a way using a mansard roof so that that third floor really does look like a level with the dormers. So we're trying to, purposely use the architecture to keep the scale and the massing of the design down. Like I said, we've worked pretty extensively with Historic, and they approved the design, our previous design, which we have here that we can show, but it virtually looks exactly the same minus the commercial space that's on the first floor. So this is the front elevation from Union Street. You can see here that we have the small infill. I keep calling it infill because originally that was both in our previous design. We had 2 units that was a courtyard, so they weren't actually connected to 36 Union. But now we've infilled that area with the commercial space. We just put a generic name on it. That's not an actual tenant. That questions come up a couple times. So that will be the commercial space. And again, you can see that that street elevation has been designed to take that storefront look all the way through the first floor, and then switching to sort of a residential double hung architecture type. And we've used projected bays to really break down the scale, give a lot of life to that elevation, bring in a lot of the historical elements, and then providing outdoor space for the residential units. So on the 3rd floor, there are balconies off of the primary bedrooms that allows occupants to come outside. And we also have small covered porches on the 2nd floor off the living rooms. So all the units get, because there's not a lot of outdoor space on the back because of the parking area, it gives everyone access to outdoor space. This is the west elevation. So this is cut through the access drive. So going up to the back of the parking. We've done our best to minimize the windows and the dormer sizes on this elevation to give our neighbors much privacy. We've also added the wood screen that's pointed out here so that it blocks the parking, so you won't be seeing cars that are parked underneath that 3rd floor. So here's the rear elevation. So as you can see, it really looks like a one and a half story building, and it's only 25 feet from this elevation to the top of the roof line. And again, we've worked to minimize openings and dormers on this elevation, again, give privacy to it. This is the east elevation. So this is cutting through the commercial space that's on the 1st floor. So here you can see this would be the outdoor terrace for unit number 3. And then this is the open air parking where I have a silhouetted person standing. So a car here. And this is some of the materials that we worked through with the Historic Commission. So just calling out the different materials that we plan to use for the construction, using brick veneer, which ties into the surrounding buildings. We have sort of a dark slate looking asphalt shingle roof. We have a lot of ornamentation on the bays, bead sets, the brackets that surround the soffit. So all that information is called out on this slide. Then here is a perspective. So this is looking down Union towards Central. And you can see how it ties into 36 Union to Gladstone. So that continuation of the commercial space, and then how we bring that storefront down through the 1st floor elevation, reach the residential level with the projected bays, and then all the ornamentation that's been designed into it to the Lincoln Empire historical elements. I think that's my last slide.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Zager?
Sure. So the standards that apply to the special permit, as the board is aware, is that the change in use and the new structure must not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. And our zoning bylaw in section 12.5.2 offers a set of performance criteria that need to be analyzed by the board. And so what I was going to do is just run through those one by one, because we believe that this design meets or exceeds all of these criteria. The first is lighting. As Chris mentioned, the lighting plan is dark sky compliant. All of the lighting is consistent with what was approved by the Historic District Commission. The plan is to have motion sensing lights in the rear, so that we're not having lights that can always be on and disturb the neighbors. As Chris pointed out, the intention with the lighting plan is so that there won't be any light reflected onto the neighboring properties. So we think that when the board analyzes the lighting criteria, that this development easily satisfies the standard of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. The second category is noise. This project is modest. It was a small project, just 3 units. We don't think that there is any reasonable basis to believe that 3-unit building is going to have any detrimental effect on the neighborhood. We have several buildings, within several hundred yards that have 6 units, 10 plus units. There's other residential units directly across the street. Insulation is going to be installed for code. We're not going to have any exterior speakers or things like that. So we think that from a noise standpoint, we also satisfy the standard of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The next is topographical standards and site clearing. We again feel that this plan more than satisfies the standard. As the board is aware, and we mentioned at the outset, the developer has abandoned the initial plan that would have pushed the building back and required an excavation into the ledge to create a courtyard for parking and a driveway in the front. So this design really minimizes, any site work that's going to be done. There'll have to be some ledge removal, but it's very minimal compared to what could have been done on the site if we had stuck with the original plan. The site's also generally fully developed. There's a building that right now, I believe it covers over 60% of the lot. So this is not a site that is going to involve extensive clearing or anything like that. And actually the overall building coverage, if you refer to our application, the current condition on the lot, building presently takes up 60.3% of the lot area. This is a pre-existing non-conforming condition. We're not going to be able to get it down to the conforming 40%, but we're reducing the building coverage from 60% to 54.4%. So it's almost a 10% reduction in building coverage. And then also importantly, presently we're non-conforming status for total structures and impervious surface at 71.5%. The town requirement by the zoning bylaw is 70%. We're going to be using pea stone on the driveway portion, not the driveway coming up, but on the rear portion of the driveway. And so we're going to reduce that to a compliant condition where it'll only be 65.5% covered by impervious and buildings. So in that way, we are substantially improving the existing site condition. There's not going to be any effect on habitat, and the existing street facade is going to be left intact. So with respect to the topographical standards and site clearing, we feel we are well exceeding the standard of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Next is site development standards. This is it's a bit of a similar criteria to the topographical standards and clearing. But as we noted, the building is being moved forward from its position to align with the streetscape, which we think is what the town is seeking in this location and what's appropriate for downtown and having mixed use, commercial, residential, and creating a lively, appropriate downtown area. So in that criteria, we also feel we meet the standard. The next standard is pedestrian and vehicular access. As Chris mentioned, we are improving the condition. The driveway that's currently 10 feet is being expanded by 20% to 12 feet. And the cutback in the building at the front corner by the driveway is going to really solve the visibility problem with cars pulling down that driveway and pulling out. You'll have a good view of cars coming from the left side. So we think the new design is going to substantially enhance safety. We're adding 6 off-street parking spaces, so each unit will have parking. The grade of the driveway is going to remain just about the same, but there'll be some slight leveling to improve it. So there won't be any kind of bump that's there now. And with the six off-street parking spots, we think it's very unlikely that residents are going to take up spots on the street. So we think that there's a real benefit to the town. Next category, aesthetics. The location and size of the building, we think are highly appropriate. There are other buildings, including the building next door, that are actually higher than what we're proposing. The proposal here is to be 4 feet lower than what the zoning actually requires. We worked extensively with the historic. There were 3 meetings to go over design details. So all of these design details that were approved by historic are being incorporated into this new design. So we feel that the aesthetic, is really going to add a lot to downtown. The existing building obviously is in a state of decay. It really needs to be replaced as soon as possible. Building in that condition shouldn't be in such a prominent location right at the center of town, and we're eager to change that. And so there are other, so we think from an aesthetic standpoint, again, we easily satisfy that standard. The next criteria is landscaping, walls, and fences. There's minimal landscaping on the site just because of the nature of the site being in a downtown area. But I think, as you saw, Chris's plan has some nice green spaces in front of the building that don't exist there today. Right now, it's just a big, facade. And so that little bit of green and some of those granite steps there, and those details that he's worked so hard on, I think are really going to enhance that area and provide a better condition than what exists today. So again, that's an example of easily meeting the criteria of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Next criteria is utilities, security, emergency systems. This is an easy project in this one. All the connections are available. There's no septic system that's being created. This building is also going to be fully sprinkled, which is a new standard. I don't think a lot of the residential buildings in town meet that. And so this, obviously, the existing cargo building doesn't. So we'll have a much safer, up to code building. There'll also be a full alarm system. So we're easily meeting the standard under utilities and emergency systems. The next criteria is fiscal impact. Obviously, there'll be a very significant increase in the real estate tax revenue generated by this project when it's completed. We don't know exactly, but I think that we can see, maybe a 4 or 5-fold increase. This plan also is totally in line with the housing diversity concepts that are embodied in the town's master plan. So adding these is going to certainly bring out, speak favorable to fiscal impact. So we think from a fiscal impact standard, again, easily meeting the standard of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. Social, economic, or community needs which are served by the proposal. Again, another, the building right now, even though it's a retail building, it's too large, and it's in a site that it just hasn't had success because it doesn't have parking directly in front. It really just doesn't work as a retail building. This new concept, we're going to have some guaranteed retail, potentially more, and it's also going to have 3 residential units, which the town sorely needs. Having diverse. We're a town that is dominated by single-family residences. So having these townhouse apartments type units available, it just adds to our diversity in our housing stock here in town. And that is certainly an important goal that's achieved by this project in this little space. And next, traffic flow and safety. That's similar to what's mentioned before. The criteria sort of repeat themselves, but again, a wider driveway, the building being cut back for visibility, actually providing more parking than for the residential units than is required by the bylaw. The bylaw would require 5. We're actually providing 6, so each unit can have 2 spaces, which should help keep people off the streets as much as possible. If we need to, depending upon the commercial, we can obviously work with the board if they're going to be loading hours and things like that, businesses there, because the businesses will not have access to the parking in the rear. We felt it was important to sort of keep the commercial activity at the front. The commercial units are a story lower, so it really wouldn't make sense to have any kind of commercial deliveries in the rear. We didn't want the commercial deliveries to disrupt any of the residential neighbors. But obviously, if we need to talk about loading hours and things like that, consistent with what the board has done in other cases, we think that can easily be managed. I can skip over the utilities, but that repeats itself again. So moving on to some of the other criteria, neighborhood character and social structures, that's similar. We already talked about that. We think we easily meet the standard. Criteria 6, preservation and enhancement or creation of existing and proposed scenic view sheds for the enjoyment of the general public. And again, we're getting rid of a serious eyesore in a prominent location that shouldn't be, a black mark on our town to have there. So we're looking to get that out of the way, bringing a new building in with a lower height that's allowed, a wider driveway. So again, we think we're enhancing and easily meet that criteria. Impacts on the natural environment. The next criteria, there's no adverse impact on the natural environment through this project. It's already in a fully developed downtown area. Next criteria, climate resiliency and adaptation. Again, this is one where we substantially exceed what's there. The proposed building is replacing a deteriorating and energy inefficient structure. This new building is going to meet the stretch energy code. It's going to feature Energy Star appliances. It's going to have electric vehicle charging, dedicated circuit for photovoltaic systems, spray foam insulation, high performance LED lighting, high performing windows and doors, low flow plumbing fixtures. It's better for the climate in every way than what's existing, so it meets the standard. And then the last criteria is also potential fiscal impacts, which is another duplicate. And as we talked about before, we can satisfy that easily with the additional tax revenue and benefits. Having 3 new residents in town, that's 3 new customers for local businesses. Every little one counts. And it also creates a vibrancy, people living downtown, walking downtown. It's nice to see that people are living there, they're enjoying themselves. So we think we easily meet the fiscal impact requirement. That would cover the requested special permits. There is also a second, the variance has an entirely different legal analysis. And unless the board has any questions, I can run through that now and we can handle those later. Sure. So in order to obtain a variance, we need to show 3 things. Number 1 is that there are unique circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting the zoning district generally. That's number 1. And number 2, because of those unique circumstances, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the applicant. And then the third item that we have to show is that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. We feel we meet all of these criteria, and this is an amazing case for a variance. And the primary reason what's unique about this lot, it doesn't affect the district generally, as Chris mentioned, is the slope and the ledge. So you don't have a site that you can build a traditional home on that has a 3rd floor with a gabled roof that would satisfy the 2/3 requirement. It's really almost impossible. You might want to show the cross section again, because that is what really demonstrates it. You can call it up on the screen. There is. So as everyone can see, the first floor, the second floor is smaller than the first. And if you were to have a 3rd floor, that would be 2/3 of the size of the second. The largest one for all 3 of the units would be just over 500 square feet, which is probably enough to have a primary suite or something like that, but it really wouldn't justify the economic investment to have a 3rd floor. So hence the need to have the third floor larger than the second. And the real reason for that is parking. If we located with the parking located to the rear, it literally eats up all that usable space on the second floor and creates this condition where the third floor necessarily has to be larger. And so that's the topography that we're dealing with. And if everyone recalls, or if those who were participating recall, the real main reason why it has to be this way is because we have voluntarily elected to keep the parking in the rear. When we first presented the plan back in May, Chris, do you have the original? Let me show the plan. This was the original plan that was proposed, the initial design. The initial design contemplated that you would pull in off the street, turn into a courtyard, and there were 2 garage bays for each unit that you would pull directly into. You'd be able to pull out, turn in, drive to listen. We thought it was a creative way to address the issues with the site. No one agreed. So rather than proceed with this plan, we changed course, moved the building forward, and had parking in the back. But to do that, it means that that second floor, as we've shown, it's small. You can't realistically have a third floor that would meet the 2/3 requirement. This is on this side. We'll show you. This is what the garages would have been. So a plan like this could potentially be done as of right, but it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. And the applicant doesn't want to do this. We much prefer to go forward with this plan that's received much more favorable input from both historic members of the public, members of the planning board that we've met with, literally everyone. And so we think it would be highly inequitable for us to now be punished, even though you've got a building that is less than the height requirement by over 10%, to not really be able to resolve this sort of anomaly that, because of the slope, we just can't have a traditional third floor that meets that 2/3 requirement. There's also some other unique conditions that relate to this lot that we're dealing with that give rise to the hardship. We've got a wartime store block building that these were designed to be the shopping centers in their day at a time when people walked to stores. It's now, no, that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody wants to drive, pull up, run in, buy something, go to their car, drive away. So it's very challenging to have commercial succeed at a site like this. You need businesses that either people stop in and they're strolling around town, or businesses that they sit down and they stay a while. So you really have a limited set of businesses that you can bring in. And it's compounded by the fact that this property, unlike many others in the commercial district, there's no parking spaces directly in front, which, if you listen to business owners, I mean, that's their key. I mean, not having any parking right in front, combined with an obsolete wartime store block building, is really difficult. And that's another unique factor that we want the board to sort of consider when understanding that we do have unique conditions that affect this property but don't affect the district generally. So because of all these factors, we believe that a literal enforcement of the bylaw would absolutely involve a substantial hardship here. That, like I mentioned, the traditional 2.5-story building just doesn't work on this slope. Like I said, we would be reducing that top floor level. Some of these units would have 500 square feet or so or less, and it would not be economically feasible to build those. And we'd also be in a situation that if the first floor were commercial and we could only have that 2/3, these would essentially be, 1-bedroom duplexes, and that just financially would not work. That would not be feasible for any developer to undertake. So we believe that this situation with all of these factors really creates a hardship that justifies allowing that variance from this dimensional requirement of the 1/2 story. Again, 31.2 feet, so we're almost 4 feet lower than what would be allowed. and forcing us to not, to build the other way would really be going against the wishes of just everybody who's looked at this project. So that moves us really to the third prong, which is that desirable relief has to be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the bylaw, intent or purpose of the bylaw. And here again, and the reasons are in many ways similar to the analysis of the special permit, where we've talked about it not being substantially detrimental, which we feel, very strongly that we satisfy those requirements. But here the analysis is a little bit different because you have to look at the purposes of and the intent of the bylaw. And obviously, the purpose of having a 35 foot height limitation is we don't want things to be higher than 35 feet. And we're there. We're not asking to go any higher than the town allows. We're just trying to deal with this anomaly that we have, because of the nature of the building and the slope and the ledge of where the parking has to go to be appropriate for what the town wants. So that overall height, is more than 10% less than what we could do, if we had to do it as a right project. So we think that granting the variance is entirely consistent and is not going to derogate in any way from the purpose of the bylaw here. Additionally, we used a mansard roof to minimize the undue massing at the third level and really make it feel like it would look almost, I think to many of us, it would look almost identical from the street anyway, to what it would look like if there was only a half story on the top floor. So from that perspective, I think that granting this variance is not going to do any harm to the public or derogate from the purpose of the bylaw. You can also see that the abutting building at 18 Union Street is higher. The building several doors down in the other direction is also higher. So of the 5 buildings, adjoining, all lined up in a row, will actually be the third highest. So I don't think it's taking away from the purpose of the bylaw to grant this relief that we're requesting. Now, I could take a little bit more time and go through. If you look at the purposes in section 1.1 of the zoning bylaw, it lists all of the purposes that zoning is designed to serve. Encouraging the most appropriate use of land and water within the town. We think that this proposal is the appropriate use. We think that that's part of the reason why we're here and why we're going to be at in front of the planning board asking for 3 units instead of 2. Is we think that this is a much more appropriate use than what could potentially be done as of right. So granting us this variance is certainly not going to abrogate that purpose. Next purpose is preventing overcrowding of land. We don't think that this is in any way going to be notified or derogated by granting this variance. There are certain cases where applicants will seek to sort of max out the size of their lot and say, oh, I need a variance, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. As the board knows, special permit would be available potentially for 4 residential units. We're only asking for 3, 1 more that's allowed. So this is not a situation where a developer is looking to max out the lot and saying, I need a variance to do it. It's absolutely the opposite of that. We're asking for 1 more unit that would be allowed as of right. And so we don't think that purpose is going to be undercut by granting the variance. The next one, preventing undue concentration of population on one hand and preventing excessive scattering of population on the other. The variance, this really has nothing to do with height. But again, this project is adding a very modest number of units downtown, all with adequate street parking. And we think it's a model example of a small mixed-use project that's going to enhance the vitality in the downtown area and hopefully boost local business. Next purpose of zoning that's listed in section 1.1 is encouraging various lot sizes and housing types for persons of various age and income levels. Absolutely served by the granting of this variance. The project is going to add 3 new residences in town that are not single family residences. That our housing stock is dominated by single families. So adding units that are not single family dwellings is absolutely it's part of the master plan. It's a purpose of zoning, and we think it's going to be served by this proposal. And one of the things that we think especially will be served by this proposal is the first floor has the potential to be retail or commercial use. And if we can achieve that, and we hope that market forces will allow that to happen, then these residential units become even smaller. And smaller means potentially more affordable. These are market rates. We're not, it's not affordable housing. Make no mistake, this project is not about affordable housing. But if we can reduce the size of those units by having retail on the, or commercial on the first floor, that will certainly serve this purpose of zoning, which is to encourage various lot sizes and housing types for persons of different income levels. Minimizing traffic hazards and congestion, you know, again, we don't feel that that has any relation to the variance, so that granting the variance is not going to nullify that in any way. We understand that there are concerns with any downtown development, and we understand that that folks have expressed concern about the driveway. It's a little unusual, but that's why we've taken care to cut back the building, increase the width. And we're also more than happy to work with any conditions that the fire department, DPW, police department might want to compose or talk to us about. We're absolutely committed to a safe project. We're not going to allow any, you know, playing in the driveway area or anything like that. It's going to be used solely for driveway purposes. So we're not, we don't see any reason why the granting the variance would take away from that purpose. Next purpose that's listed for zoning is providing for adequate light, air, and sanitation. Again, we don't think that this granting this variance is going to have in any way an adverse effect on the zoning purpose. The building, as we mentioned, is 10%, is great more than 10% lower than it could be if it were built as of right. So we've really taken steps to not push the envelope, to do a project that's going to be friendly for our neighbors, friendly for the town. So even though we are asking for a technical variance for the size of that third story, this isn't a case where the applicant is pushing the envelope and trying to go above the maximum height limit or even, you know, approach it. We've carefully worked to modify our plans based upon the town and neighbor input. So we don't see that granting this variance is going to take away from that purpose of zoning. Reducing hazards from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers. I don't think that granting the variance has any real relation to that or is going to cause any harm to that zoning purpose. Preventing blight and pollution of the environment, same thing. We don't think that's going to be nullified or derogated from in any way. Next purpose, maintaining, enhancing the natural and historical amenities of Manchester by the Sea. On the contrary, granting this variance is going to enhance that. It's going to avoid a situation where we might have to do more ledge removal than we might otherwise want. And we're going to build a building that the Historic District Commission is going to be proud to approve, hopefully, when they see the revised design. It's similar to what they approved before, and a building that hopefully, you know, every resident in town can be proud of. This is a prominent site right downtown. It shouldn't look the way that it looks right now. And we want to build a beautiful building that everybody can love, that's not going to be too large, it's not going to be intrusive on our neighbors, that's flexible and can last for 75 years or longer. Next purpose of zoning, conserving the value of land and buildings. This one absolutely will be served by granting the variance. We want to replace this decaying structure with something in this that's going to enhance and not, you know, detract from the property values next door. Next purpose of zoning, promoting the development of a sustainable coastal community and encourage climate resiliency. We've already been through that. This building is going to be light years ahead of what's there now. Granting this height variance has no adverse impact on that purpose of zoning. And then the last thing is implementing the recommendations of the town master plan. Again, absolutely served by this variance. This variance is going to result in 3 non-single family housing units. It goes right to the, and I quoted from the master plan, diverse housing scaled to fit well into the town's varied neighborhoods to attract and retain diverse businesses in town and encouraging housing of size, styles, and prices appropriate for downsizing households. Just at our meeting last night, we had multiple potential downsizers inquiring about these apartments already. We think that this is a home run. We think that the variance is fair. We're not asking for the world. We kept the building within the height that's required by the town. We just need to address this anomaly where, because of the slope and the topography, you just can't get a third floor that's less than 2/3 of the size of the second. So
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you, everybody. It's a little long-winded, but we wanted to cover all the factors. We need to do it. So.
Are there any questions from the board regarding this project?
I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, I agree that cargo building is a disgrace. So I appreciate you taking on the challenge, to do something with that site. I think the design's really nice and I appreciate the roof line, reducing the scale off the street. So I think it's a really nice design. I had a question about like the commercial floor space. The plan indicates about 3,200 square feet. So the way I see it, there's the 3 units and then there's the space on the far right. That includes all 4 spaces combined, correct? Roughly. And then I understand you want some flexibility with the 3 units. So, one scenario could be you could lease out the entire floor space if you need to, right? There's no like firewalls or there's some flexibility to have like 4 separate distinct units or 1 complete, storefront if you found that right tenant, down the line. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would design it, but there's a requirement for a 2-hour separation between commercial and residential use, so we would design that late to meet that requirement so that you can have the flexibility for that lower level.
Sure. Like just for me personally as a resident and board member, I think I'm fine with just that 1 commercial unit to the far right and then the rest being just residential. I mean, retail, as we all know, it doesn't necessarily thrive in this town, especially when you don't have parking. I think the parking is a serious challenge in that area in particular, and it's pretty quiet, just pedestrian traffic. Also, have you guys thought about just, staging during construction? The site's challenging, just in terms of just like, contractors coming on and off site and then, stored materials, just things to think about as you get down that path.
Yeah, we've already met with the police department about the demolition process and what their preferred route and police details that they would like for us to get with them. So we've already sort of worked through that whole construction plan with them. Once we do take down the building, we're going to have a substantial staging area up on the hill because the building footprint is reduced significantly. So it actually opens up a pretty significant area so that we can keep, materials, construction vehicles off the street. And obviously we have a construction fence, so sidewalk there.
And Adam, I don't think you mentioned this, but the fire chief has signed off on a safety plan, correct?
So we met with fire chief as well. We walked through the plans. He did request that we put a dry fire hydrant in up on the hill so that they can connect their vehicle to it if there is an emergency event. That was really their only request for the project.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Jojo?
Yeah, I do have your questions help my questions, so that eliminated some. I just want the presentation. So when you guys went to historic district, did the plan that you presented to historic, did it require a variance at that time? So it was based on the feedback you got from abutters, and that meeting resulted in changing the facade and switching the parking, which resulted in you now needing a variance because of that design that accommodated. And I know the variance is also needed because of topography for the site and blasting.
In part, I'm not sure that the first plan ever got to historic.
Okay.
Well, we submitted it and then there was a lot of pushback.
Feedback, pushback, didn't like the design. Okay.
Yeah, so we ended up resubmitting a new design to then put parking on the rear of the site. The thing is, it was only 2 units. So the requirements for the parking were much less.
Yep.
Just this design here. So you can see that this was that courtyard I was talking about on our original submittal, so there was a break, because we're required to have a 10-foot setback on the side yards and the rear and a 5-foot on the front. So we had to push the building back 5 feet and maintain the 10-foot setbacks all around the building. So that ended up basically creating a complete separation between 36 Union and 18 Union. So that was.
And this only had 2 units, so this only had 2 parking spaces. There were gonna be 2 parking spaces in the driveway and back, and then 2 parking spaces under the building. And because there were only 2 as opposed to 6, this plan, the 3rd floor, could be designed to meet that 2/3 requirement.
Was it designed that way?
This building,
Yeah, that was-
this picture here would not need any zoning relief
Okay.
whatsoever.
So that was kind of but based on feedback you received
Right.
at the public hearings for the Historic District Commission and maybe from the Historic Board.
Well, the first big change was after we submitted one plan, I think informally to Historic. And then we had a meeting with some of the members of the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Downtown Improvement Committee, Select Board, and the universal opinion was get rid of that courtyard.
Okay, and that design,
So we immediately changed that
Yeah.
to go to the 2-family plan that was as of right with only 2 parking spaces. And this went to Historic, and it's an as of right plan. At the Historic meetings, those were, as I mentioned at the outset, there were 2 major criticisms. Everybody said, we want retail. Nobody was happy with losing retail. And that was it was probably the biggest theme of the night. And then the second theme, and this was the reason why we had one Historic Commission member dissenting, was they didn't want that facade broken. They felt the downtown streetscape should maintain that. It should be lively. And so even though we got the Historic approval, we sat down and we took those comments to heart. And that's the result in the plan here tonight that guarantees at least 1 retail space with the potential for more. And it also addresses that comment about breaking the facade. We think if we go back to Historic with this, instead of 5-1, it's gonna be 6-0.
Okay.
Yeah, and this had a garage space, so that floor plate, that second floor is larger, so we were able to take advantage of the 2/3. Because the floor plate was larger.
Okay.
Where on the current proposed design that we're showing you today, we don't have any conditioned heat space that we can allocate towards that 2/3 for the 3rd floors. It's a geometry.
yes, that helped to clarify. I just wanted to understand what was originally proposed, how it kind of changed, and now why they're asking for the variance relief. That helped.
Yeah, and you can see from this image here that, the exterior of what we're proposing today looks exactly the same. I mean, it really hasn't changed from the Union Street elevation.
Rob?
Question.
What? No?
It's it'll pass right now.
Okay. One of my questions is today, what is the height of the existing building at the street level?
So it's 39.8.
That's probably from.
Yeah, yeah, so it's.
Sea level.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Sea level is 23, right?
Yep.
18 feet.
Current height is 18.
Yeah, so from the drive entry, we're at grade elevation 22, the roof peaks at 39. So.
You're doubling. Doubling height.
Oh, of the proposed plan.
It's about double, right?
Yeah.
Because the
From existing-
proposed plan is 36,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry,
Double.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I don't quite understand the plan for the first floor. And I don't understand, you've given us something with a lot of what if, maybes. We usually get definite stuff. And so, for instance, you're saying the stair may be deleted if the space is used for commercial use. So if you deleted the stairs, you would have no access to the residential units from the street?
No, it would be from the rear. Right, from the, correct,
From the
from Union Street, correct. Would be.
And I believe the letter from the fire chief was relying on the fact that he would have access to the residential units from the street for ambulance purposes.
We never saw the
We've
letter.
never seen the letter.
Okay. And would you have a second egress from the units if you didn't have the access from the street?
And you could create one through to the balcony, the balcony here.
You would have, yeah, the balconies would be an egress. You need one, your second means needs to be or primary needs to be to a grade. Why you have emergency escape and rescue openings.
So you would meet the building code. Does that sound right, Rob?
Yeah.
No pressure. Did they meet the whole code?
My annual piece of bronchitis is right. Yeah, as long as it's sprinkled, I think that they can get away with 1 means of egress.
Yeah, and you have to have an area of huge, which we provided with the.
An area of refuge for what?
You need an area that someone can go to that then provides. Fire department or.
You're talking like a fire rated stairwell?
Well, yeah, but this would be added, basically the open porch.
So you go out on the porch and wait for the ladder to come get you.
Well, it's the same if you're stuck in your bedroom on your second floor, yeah, that's building code reads that you have emergency escape and rescue openings.
20 by 24, 40.
Well, the only problem I have with it is per fire chief's letter, he just has plans were submitted. That's what he's got.
Right.
That's what he's judging his off. Now you're giving him something different. What his plans now, where his ideas now change.
We're happy to discuss that.
Yeah, well,
and resolve that.
Right, but I mean, aside from the fire chief, we typically grant the variance or a special permit based on what we see, not what it might be, it's specific.
Well, we usually have definitive plans.
Well, yeah, that's my point. It's very specific, and seems like it could be one thing, but it could be
Right.
something else, so that's kind of where I'm getting hung up a little bit.
I disagree though, because it's just talking about the use of the floor space. It's not changing the structure at all. It could be 3 years until this thing's actually complete. Who knows what the market's gonna look like? And we could be in the middle of a recession. There's no way you're gonna be able to find a tenant to take on 3,200 square feet with no parking in a recession. So I appreciate that there's actually some flexibility in what we're seeing here. It could be residential, it could be commercial, it could be 4 units, it could be 1 large unit. So
I
it's very
think,
common to do that.
but the reason I have a concern, John, is because of the driveway and the limited access to the rear.
But the commercial people won't have access to the rear.
And the residents won't have access to the front if they do the flex space.
But they'll have access to the rear. That's their entrance to their home.
Yeah, but you have to come down the driveway in order to get to the street.
And my question is, whatever's inside of that bottom unit, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4 commercial units, how does that affect the person accessing the rear that lives there?
Right.
In my mind, I don't see something, but that could be, you could see completely different, or the ambulance or.
The walkway way in and out of the place now will be the driveway.
It sounds like though the town wanted this flexibility.
But it's not the town to control what the ZBA does.
It just sounds like there's a series of meetings that went on without,
No, it wasn't.
without our involvement. So
Sorry, I just have my final comment is just.
Yeah.
The way I'm looking at it is I'm voting on the height, the variance, the special permit, and the 3 residential units. Well, and I take it back, I guess you guys are asking for one commercial unit.
Right, well, it could be broken up into different spaces. So
Okay, so now that's where yeah, it's a little different, but
we're asked, we believe that this is a building right downtown. Residential use is allowed as of right, commercial uses are allowed as of right. We think it would be unrealistic to think, I mean, this is a building being built to design to last for generations. And we think it's unrealistic to think that there's not gonna be some change in the uses. We've at 21 Union Street across the street, we've occasionally had a real estate office. The yellow building at the end, Zach's was going in and out for Beach at times. They've had residential and retail. So we think this is really consistent with the zoning district. And we do believe that the board you have authority to grant a special permit that would allow for that flexibility. We don't think it's beyond your power to grant a special permit.
I think if we're approving a change of use, we need to know what the change of use is and not that it's gonna change over time from the change of use we.
Well, it's residential use.
I think at this point, we have a fair number of people on Zoom. We have people in the room. I would like to get public comments in tonight. I'm not gonna go past 10 o'clock tonight.
Thank you.
And so, I would ask people to speak only once and to say what you have to say once, and try not to be too repetitive of other people have said. You certainly can say, I agree with so-and-so or I disagree, but to give the same argument multiple times will put us to sleep. So with that, I will take public comment from people in the room first. Raise your hand, Mr. Brooker. Please state your name and address.
Yes, Remco Brooker, 87 Summer Street, here in town. This is a very challenging site. And I think everybody probably has a lot of different comments, criticisms, concerns, or likes. One thing that I think is a really nice development is that we're maintaining that street facade. This project does that. I think it's vital to the town that we maintain that. Otherwise, we're going to lose the sense of a downtown, the sense of any sort of centering and commercial sense to the town. Whether that's one commercial unit or doesn't matter, I think. And so I think from that point of view, that's a positive development. Also, I think that it really should be seen as an urban building. So even the fire concerns, you should really look at this building as being in Salem or Boston or that sort of thing. It has a very similar site, tight conditions. I think that even if there's an entrance only on the rear of the building, I think that emergency people can easily get to that spot. And so I think that's the way we should do this building. I think.
Anybody else want to say anything? Yes, please state your name and address.
Sandy Rogers, 82 Old Essex Road. Two items I am concerned about. That driveway. I live on a hill that has a curve. And so with the amount of traffic going in and out for the residents, I don't know what can be done that you can somehow make that drive flatter or something, because even with that visibility, the ability to stop ice, that's just such a treacherous corner. So I don't know what you can do to the type of pavement that's there, something, but that whole turning radius coming down, that's something to consider for safety. Second was what Sarah just mentioned. I don't know how you can have another egress if you cut off the bottom to commercial, which I think the town and other people do want, with the middle unit, now that you're 3 units versus 2 units. If you were 2 units, you could potentially have some second egress on the side somehow with that third unit that's isolated in between the two walls. I don't know how you're gonna do that. So I think having a plan for that's important. The other is, I have a question regarding how far out the bays go. Do they, it looks like they might overhang where people walk, so getting a good idea of what that is, where the water and snow and other thing might be cascading where people are walking and stuff. It just, the idea of having the streetscape have a continuous line, they seem to jut out a lot. And so it might be better to flatten that out. It would just make it less bulky regarding the whole building, and that might then go better for that upper variance that you need on this line.
Would you like to answer the question of do the bays extend over the sidewalk?
No, the big, everything's completely. Base.
How close are they to the sidewalk?
It varies, so here, closer to 36 Union, that bay is a few inches from the property line, but as the building opens up towards where the drive is, they step to that.
So it's just 2 inches?
It's, I can measure it, but it's relatively close to that.
Yeah, I think there needs to, that should, it's my opinion, it should push back, because then you're gonna get potential snow and ice and rain cascading over. So, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Britta Magnuson, 39 Union Street. I just had a question about the difference in what was deemed by the Historical Commission and now, because it looks like it substantially got bigger. It's 3 units instead of 2. I'm curious what they saw for height then versus what you have for height now. And I understand you were adding commercial, but you added that commercial to the right side, and would doing that to your other plan, like achieve the goals they were thinking? So I'm just curious kind of what they saw, what they approved, what you got here looks a lot different.
Yeah, so the actual front elevation is the same. There was 2 large units before. Now it's broken down into 3 smaller units. So marking that's more reasonable rate. Also, we pulled the whole building forward. That was one of the biggest concerns, because you have a 5-foot front yard setback, and everyone wanted to maintain that 0 yard or as close to the sidewalk as possible. So the whole building slid forward, and then we infilled what we had as a courtyard with a 1-story commercial space.
Yeah. So you're saying the height is exactly the same?
Yes.
It just looks,
I mean,
the streetscape view looks a lot.
yeah, I mean, our original submittal, we were at 35. We worked with the abutters. We brought this down as we worked through the plans. So we were actually higher than 18 Union.
No, but the 35, was there a setback
Yes, had the 4-yard
at
front.
the top? Was there?
Yes, it's similar
But-
for the
But
bay.
this we have, but here the roof lines coming out, there it was all setback.
I mean, we're really dealing with the plans that we had before us.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
what
Well, I'm just
the
wondering,
Historic District Commission did.
does it go back to this?
Yes.
Commission? So I'm just curious.
This is a different plan.
No, I don't know like how these things are
Yeah,
done.
it's a different plan that has to go back to the Historic District Commission.
What if they don't like it?
They'll go in circles.
Okay. It just, yeah, it seems like exactly, it looks substantially different to me, like that not having that setback on the rooftop. And it concerns me, how that will look on the street side, increasing the height by twice, 18 feet to 36 feet. Okay.
Anyone else in the room to speak? Yes, sir.
Mark Weld, 15 School Street, also known as Town Hill. I am conflicted because I have been talking with Chris for quite a while about this. Because those of you that don't know, I am up behind Cargo, so obviously I have an interest more so aesthetically view-wise than anything else. I'm not really worried about that. But I have also listened to a very enthusiastic presentation by Mr. Zager that I disagree with much on many factual points and many opinions. And those things all kind of resolve around the important part of it to me now is I think the aesthetic is great. I think they've done a great design job. I think that when people tell you, well, we may make the whole thing retail, well, take a look at your zoning bylaw. You'll see that you then need 12 parking spaces according to the bylaw. Now, whether you've waived them or not, I don't know, but that's change in use. And as whether you've got enough spaces now, you have the number of spaces you're supposed to have because you have 5 for 3 residential units and 1 for a retail unit. That totals 6. So there's a number of things like that that I disagree with the factual part of the presentation. Okay. The issue that a number of my neighbors have brought to me, and there have been many of them, is with the Historic District Commission. They are focused on what you see from the street. It's the legacy look at the town. What happens behind the building? Not so much, right? And that's where the action is now. Now, Mr. Zager outlined nobody was in favor of the original drawing. I thought it was awesome. Because what it did very creatively was provided a space for 4 cars in a 2-family development, which again, I disagree. I don't believe there is anything as of right. This is an pre-existing non-conforming use, and it requires approval of the zoning board of appeals in any event. Just as my house does, just as many of your homes do. So I think that what that initial plan did very cleverly was made it so you did not have to go up and down that driveway that you just referenced, which is 10 feet wide currently and is very steep. And my neighbor Toby and I know that because we live on one that's 10 feet wide. That's about 250 feet long. So, but it is not closed at the bottom or in the middle, and you can always see what's happening around you. So my concern again is, while the representation is that the driveway will be widened by 2 feet or 20%, as you've indicated, the fact is the density is increasing by 400%. And again, not in my own personal interest, but just in the bigger interest, which I feel compelled to speak about. It's dangerous. And I would suggest this board in any event would suggest there would be a traffic study required by a qualified firm that could tell you, you know, yeah, you've got 6 parking spaces back there, but I can tell you that the interface of the current property line, and I did own that house at 18 Union Street once, so I'm very familiar with where the lines are. And the interface between how you get in and out of those parking spaces, let alone there's a column between every parking space, okay? So when you back out, you have to make sure that you don't worry about the column, or your bedroom will be part of the second floor, okay? So I think there's a lot of these kind of things, public safety wise. Okay, and I did hear the fire department's concerns. The fire department, Sarah, you know, on the finance committee, when we all talk about ladder trucks, this is why we have ladder trucks. I get that. But not if people can't walk out the front. That's a detail to me. Okay, but I think that I would be in favor of the 2-family, even if they said we're going to park the cars out and back. You have a lot less parking. You know, 2-family building is fine. The small commercial unit is I think is fine as well. My other neighbor next door, right behind me, Dan Weaver, who's Gladstone building, is you know, I'm sure he'll have a feeling on that as well. But again, I think it needs to be redeveloped. I'm not somebody, and We've seen this place for 70 years, go in and out. And by the way, during that period of time at 21 Union, there has always been a commercial spot there. Dr. Herrick, everybody, their physicians always, so there's always been commercial in that home that you're in now. On the other hand, other than Mr. Morse's building, there is no other building along what I call, and the chief of police calls 127 in that main area downtown, that accesses a residential development from the street. It's all off-street parking. And there's a reason for that. And that is because that's 127. It's a state highway. It gets lots of traffic. And so I think the public safety issue, above all, and I'd love to have like a little debate about, you know, the other factual things, but that's an issue. And let alone, you got 3 family homes, all right? Is it going to be all people like me that are, okay, I can't stand being in a big house anymore? Well, I'm not going to be in a 3-level house either without an elevator, which they could, I suppose, put in. But if you have families in there at all, and like many of us in this town have grown up with small children that have been on bicycles, now skateboards, and now powered scooters. Wait till you see somebody come down that driveway. And the idea that you're going to prohibit people from playing in the backyard or on the driveways, that ain't happening. And I've seen that. And, you know, everybody that has owned the house next door has had kids, and, you know, they play where they want to play. They're great. But you have to think about not only vehicular movement, but also pedestrian movement and resident movement that are going to go up and down that driveway. So I don't think 2 feet cuts it. I think there's a couple other things you could do, but I think that a proper study to take a look at this would be in order. And I don't think that any of the public entities in Manchester, neither fire has not spoken about the driveway because they believe they have front access with a ladder and they have people exiting. All residents are able to exit out front. I haven't talked to them about what happens if your ambulance is up there and somebody gets into a problem on the driveway, but that's a different thing. But I know police has not done a public safety study of the traffic as well. So again, I like it, but I think you need to make it safe and have it work the way that it should.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room wish to? Yes, sir.
Daniel Weaver, 12 Allen Avenue. Also, as referred, I own 36 Union Street. In favor of development in this town, especially with a building that is run down and hasn't been cared for years. I just really urge the board to make sure that safety is the #1 thing. And if you're putting 3 units with now 6 cars parking off the street, people coming in and out, is that 6 trips a day? Is that more than 6 trips a day? Are we talking big SUVs? There's just a lot of concerns about safely accessing this property with no street parking in front. And I'm sure there's solutions for it because buildings like this get built all the time. But this is the main street in town. So how safe is it? And if all the officials say it's safe, then absolutely build this project. But I just don't know that that's the case today.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Foley on Plasky Drive. I agree with Mr. Weld with the parking. It is on the ZBA and the planning board to know what the uses are so you can require that amount of off-street parking. So depending upon what the use of the commercial space is, you need to then look at the table and determine how many off-street parking spaces it needs. So it can't really be in flux. But what I'd actually like to do is reference the variance. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. I am compelled to speak about the variance part of this application. A variance is an extraordinary form of relief that can be granted only when a true hardship arises from the soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land itself. Here, the steep slope does not prevent use. The site already supports a large building and functional parking. Costly obstacles such as ledge removal or site work do not constitute hardship under Chapter 48, Section 10. Wanting 3 floors to fit a preferred design or to avoid ledge removal is not hardship. Input from town staff or resident opinions are advisory and cannot create legal hardship. A voluntary redesign that causes a zoning violation is a self-created hardship and is not grounds for a variance. Property owners cannot trade one zoning conflict for another simply because a preferred design no longer fits the rules. If every homeowner could claim a taller building when their design required it, zoning rules would become meaningless. Granting 3 full floors would exceed the board's authority and stretch the law. Finally, while I support mixed use and the town has mixed use buildings in practice, mixed use is not listed as a permitted use in our zoning table. Under Mass General Law 48, Section 10 again, a variance cannot authorize a use that the bylaws do not allow. The existence of similar buildings elsewhere does not create a legal basis for granting a variance here. So I'm not sure how you can do a use variance on mixed use.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? With that, I will go to Zoom. If you wish to speak on this application, please raise your hand. I see that Cindy has her hand raised. Go ahead, please.
Hi there. So 21 Union.
Name and address.
Cindy Zager. I own the property at 21 Union Street across the street. I just wanted to talk about the idea that this is adding 2 more cars and this issue that Mr. Weld has brought up with the safety. We're adding 2 cars and we're gaining so much more with this commercial space that I think that, you know, it's something that really is it shouldn't be considered as a valid concern because it has been approved having 4 cars. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you. I don't believe it was approved by the ZBA to have 4 cars. I believe that was, I don't believe there's been approval on 4 cars.
I think what you meant is as of right, we could have 4 cars.
Well, I'm not sure about that. That's okay. Go ahead, CD.
Well, hi, it's Christine Delissio, 6 Lincoln Ave. I just wanted to just touch on something briefly. So the applicant is requesting relief to go from 2 units to 3, which, you know, that's a density increase. And so if they're asking for a density bonus, I just feel this property owner has several units around town, and there does seem to be an underlining pattern of non-affordability. So if they're asking for another unit, I think that it's very fair to ask for an affordable unit out of this. I think that they're adding to our problem of unaffordability, and these units are just generally don't fall within the affordable range. They are mixed sizes, but adding something continually without any affordable we're just going in the wrong direction. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah's iPhone.
Hi, sorry, could you hear me?
Yes. Please.
Okay, hi. Thank you. Yeah, it's Sarah Pierce, 9 Friend Street. I just want to get back to my notes for a second that I took throughout. This has been an ongoing project, and I'm going to summarize this in an email, but do want to bring it in front of the board tonight. So 22 Union Street, Cargo Unlimited, is a really special building to many people in town, and it's been established that it's been neglected, et cetera, and needs to move on to a different phase. The first plan for this building was no tear down by the attorney that presented this initially, no tear down of the cargo building. The second plan was 2 units with questionable parking either in the front or in the back, and the public did push back on parking in the front. Now we're moving to 3 units with 3 stories in an already densely populated area with very little parking. I have a bunch of questions and comments. So again, I will send this in via email, but I'll just kind of speak to this now. So I'm wondering, there's 6 parking spaces allotted for each residential unit. How are you accommodating the 3 storefront parking spaces?
There's 2 parking spaces for you. No, so I think we should tell her that. If she just wants to keep going through, I think.
And just keep raising, we're not gonna answer all the questions.
Okay, so I took notes throughout. So I'm just wondering, we're very limited on parking throughout town. So commercial or residential, you go down School Street or Union Street or Beach Street, people are kind of lacking parking. So I want to put that out there. Then there was a mention of putting pea stone on top of the upper driveway. Is that going on top of ledge? That's one question. And then the topic of diverse housing. How is this adding to our diversity? It's been clearly stated that there is no affordability piece in this, but are we diverging from the norm of our scale and height requirements from our town? So high-end condos are diverse because why? And then there was a statement made by Mr. Zager, who I believe is the attorney and also lived across the street with his wife. I'm not sure. She just said that. Better for our climate. Please expand on the benefit or minimal detrimental effects to our small coastal town and how this project would be better for our climate. Then there was a comment made about people playing in the driveway. Who is policing the quote, playing in the driveway, and what does that mean? And then there was a comment made, single families are potentially much smaller. There's a trend now in Manchester where the buildings that are going up are twice the size of the single families that have existed in Manchester and have been here for as long as I've lived, which I've lived in this town for 43 years. And it is very sad to me to see these overpowering large scale buildings with no allotted parking, and they're overtaking what used to give our town like its basic character and coastal charm. So I guess I just am wondering, what direction are we going in, and what is the end goal of adding this 2 developments to 3 developments to, I love the idea of the commercial because we need that, but where are people parking and what are people coming to town for, to shop for? What are we offering the public? So I know that's a lot of information, questions and comments. I will follow up in an email. If anyone can answer any of that, that would be great. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand. Don't see anybody. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Since Mel brought it up, my name is Gar Morse, and I own the old Zach's building, and I wish Zach's were still in there. But anyway, since he brought it up, I will give you a strange irony. We have like 7 or 8 parking spaces in that building, okay? It's amazing, at least three or four of the tenants either keep their car there and never drive it or don't have a car. That's one of the beauties of Manchester, is if you live where he lives, if he had the power in his legs, he could walk down to,
If you walk down to Danvers, you're right.
he could walk to Crosby's for his grocery shopping. And that's one of the beauties of this town. As difficult as parking is, it's a town where you can almost get along without a car, which is, I realize it's not relevant, Madam Chairman, but that's my speech. There you go.
Can I just ask, what's the Zach's building?
It's a yellow building. It's
For the-
most architecturally significant.
Oh, the yellow,
building
like, you have the
in-
violin,
in the
just see the
town,
guy with
yeah.
the violin.
It's beautiful.
Larry over there.
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert,
Wow.
please state your name and address.
Gary Gilbert, 11 Magnolia Ave. I've just got miscellaneous comments. As I recall, an original proposal was that you'd have 2 curb cuts right on the street and you'd have 2 driveways or one curb, but parking in the front. Okay, to me, that would be horrible on many levels. Talk about safety, way less safe. It's also really would erode away the streetscapes in our town are charming, but we have too many, what's sometimes called missing teeth. There's too many voids, there's too many curb cuts going across the sidewalk. There's buildings perpendicular to the street with parking lots perpendicular. There's too much anomalies. We need a consistent street wall, and it creates a sense of intimacy when you walk around town. He's allowed to go to 35 feet high. People shouldn't talk about height on this project anymore. He's literally allowed to go taller than he's going. The street wall helps. The fact that he's bringing the building closer to the street is incredibly beneficial in terms of experience when you walk through town. He could do a lot worse in previous proposals. This is a charming building with modulated facade. I think there's a lot of talk in town to try to encourage mixed use. Very quickly, we're going to be passing laws. We're going to have to be realistic. You can't be requiring lots of parking for commercial spaces. You won't get them built. They're hard enough to rent out as it is. We have to be realistic. We have to be a little flexible. He's got a real hardship here, as he's made the case of with the topography. He's going to make it better for the environment because it's going to be more impervious surface, less footprint of the building. Those are hard facts. We need more water absorption in town in general, so this is a plus on that level. The safety arguments, fire chief, I really think no one should be talking about that. Don't second guess the building inspector. They'll do their job. He won't get a permit if he doesn't satisfy them. The egress, we shouldn't be spending time on that, in my opinion. It happens a lot, people digress, but let those people give him a permit or not give him a permit. He's a responsible architect with experience. He's going to satisfy the code. Let's see. I'm just about done. And one thing, I guess finally, a big picture wise, you have a chance to write, maybe you could call it a wrong from way back when. When they set up the zoning for downtown, they didn't think it through all the way. It's not the same as up on Old Essex Road where you should have 2.5-story pitched roof homes and a certain amount of parking and et cetera. Downtown should be treated differently. It's our village, it's our little town. The parking requirements should be varied. We shouldn't be requiring 5-foot setbacks. We should encourage 0 lot line setbacks to create that street wall and that charming experience, which is our town. And this 2/3 of a story is also an anomaly. It really shouldn't be a requirement. Makes sense out in the residential neighborhoods, but not downtown. We want to, I think eventually we're going to all vote that we want to see mixed use. So we have to encourage it. We shouldn't be requiring 2 2/3 story buildings downtown.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to close public comment. Seems like everyone has spoken, who's wanted to. Board. It seems to me that there have been some issues raised. And I feel that perhaps we need some additional information. I don't know what other people think.
I would agree strictly on the fact that they hadn't seen the letter from the fire chief and his concern that you would raise. So that alone, I feel comfortable continuing the meeting until they at least had a chance to read the letter, figure that out.
So,
I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, I think Jake needs to be more informed of what is going on. I don't think he has a good representation of what's being presented right now. Like I said, stated earlier, my concerns are not so much that it's a back exit, but that there's no pathway out of the building to street level when you're dealing with kids. Driveway to me for a multi-family unit is not considered a good walkway when kids are involved. And that's my major concern with that. Trying to justify the difference in the 3 levels, that's another concern. And not having a specific plan for the main floor presented.
I mean, I just want to know, are we gonna vote on 3 residentials or are we gonna vote on a mixed use occupancy? What are we gonna vote on?
That's
specifically.
The uses in our town allow commercial retail and they allow residential.
Right.
So we would be voting on the exact number of units.
Right.
And I believe on the exact amount of commercial space, we need to consider that because I think that requirements are different based on whether you've got
That's my understanding.
3,200 square feet of retail versus 440 square feet of retail. I think we need to take that into consideration.
And I think it's a great looking, to me, it's pretty looking place. I think it, look nice, be nice, but for us to give our actual decision, I think we need more information.
What are your thoughts, Tony?
No, I agree with that. I think also sort of my question, if it was 3 residential, would that be an easier yes for 3 floors of residential? Is that an easier yes for the height versus not knowing? And I guess I'm concerned too, it all looks commercial, but you have residential. Then you switch, what does that first floor actually look like for a homeowner?
It'll be the same. The exterior of the building is not going to change based upon what the use is. It's been designed to look commercial.
Yeah.
Similar to, I'm not sure the building across from Mascanoma, that was originally, it's designed to sort of look commercial. Somebody can live in there, but it looks commercial. The other clarification just to the board is where our intention is, we also need to go to the planning board to approve the 3 units. And at that hearing, that section 6.1.8 of the zoning bylaw allows the planning board to waive or reduce any of the parking requirements. So in connection with that application, we plan to ask the planning board to waive the parking requirements for the commercial use, which is consistent with what's happened. We understand what's happened at 7 Central. So that piece of the application, we intend to resolve parking for that planning board process, which will play out, I think, roughly at the same time as this one. So they do have the authority to do that.
I have serious concerns over the driveway, and access to the residential unit. So I would like to see the traffic study. I'd like to understand whether that access to the parking spaces behind the building is feasible without trespassing on an abutter's lane. I'd like to understand what the potential volume increase and impact to Union Street of the cars coming down that driveway. I look at my neighbors. I don't happen to drive much, I walk. I look at my neighbors. I look at my neighbors and without kids, they go out of their driveway 5 or 6 times a day. If you've got 6 vehicles each going out 5 or 6 times a day, that's a significantly different impact than the historic use of that driveway. Today you go by that driveway, you hardly ever see a car. maybe now because it's rented, you do, but you know, it's not you, so I think a traffic study would make sense, and I think we need the police chief to opine on that traffic study. And we need sign off from DPW, and we need the fire chief to look at the impact if there's no access to the residential units from the street.
I think that those are, we take safety very seriously. It's, you know, it would be a disaster for us as an attorney and developer to build a project and have a disaster occur. I guess and the fire chief on the access, I think that's an easy one to address. The parking study, I mean, this, as of right, you could build 2 units here. So we're really talking about one more unit. So I guess what I've requested was like a letter from a traffic engineer. I mean, I'm not sure what the scope of a traffic study. I mean, it'd be pretty unusual to have a full traffic study for a 3-unit building, or to have one more unit that could be built as of right.
Just to make it clear, we're not talking one more unit. We're talking a building that is currently retail to which you are adding 3 units. That's the change of use. 3 units,
But if we
not
weren't,
one.
but if we weren't here and we proceeded with the plan,
We're voting on the plan presented to us, which is 3 units.
Can I also mention that that's also a shared driveway,
Right,
which we haven't brought up.
common driveway.
Right.
of course. So you already have one residence. I mean, so it seems to us that the incremental increase versus what would be allowed as a right, which is 2-family, it doesn't really warrant a full traffic study. I mean, I think we can certainly get an opinion letter from a traffic engineer that's looked at it, and maybe that might be enough. I mean, if the public works and the police and the fire, find deficiencies in that, I think we could expand. But I think it's a pretty tall hurdle to say that we've got to do a full traffic study that you would be doing for a large apartment building or.
Red flag.
Okay.
I have questions.
We've closed off public comment.
We want to address your concern. We're not saying no, but I think the scope of the traffic
I think,
study.
in my mind, there are 3 things. Okay, one is the accessibility in the rear for the maneuvering of 6 vehicles. Okay, number 2 is what is the expected number of trips, daily trips that one would have from 6 cars and 3 units? And the third is pedestrian access.
Pedestrian access to the units.
From the units to the street if you don't have access from the street. If you have access to the units from the street, then I'm not concerned about pedestrians.
Sure.
If you don't have access to the street direct on the first level,
Right.
then I have concerns about the little kiddos.
Yep.
And, you might even consider, is there a way to put a staircase, to have a vestibule or something on the first level that would then give you staircases to the residential from the street?
Sure, that's absolutely fair. That scope is absolutely fair. I think we'd be
Okay.
happy to
Yeah,
address those points.
Okay.
I was just worried we're full,
Yeah.
when you say traffic study, it can be.
The police chief isn't gonna be able to give us an opinion unless he understands the expected number of trips. He wouldn't know that.
I mean, the IT, for units like this, the ITE standard is generally, 5-6 trips per day per unit, but we can address that in a letter. I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for. We want to assure the community that this is going to be a safe project. We're not looking to ram this thing through. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable. So that scope is very fair. That's fine. Happy to
We
do
want
that.
something definitive on that first floor, whether or not you're gonna have access to the residential unit. Is that clear? Anything else? So you're willing to continue it?
Of course.
To December or January?
What's the meeting fee? Is it?
December is the 17th, a relatively full meeting. January would be the 28th. I prefer January, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'd rather do December if it's gonna be that far out.
Can I be scheduled for planning board?
That's not,
She's, no, it's not. Never mind, nope, I'll go on.
no, we're the fourth Wednesday of the month. The only time we do the third Wednesday is in November and December because of holidays.
The best Thanksgiving.
I was thinking it was the third.
Okay. At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to December 17th at 7 p.m. Do I have a
Second that
second?
motion.
Georgia seconds. So John? Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Sarah votes yes.
Exactly.
You need the signature.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you also want to.
You're grandfathered.
You're grandfathered
Freaking air right here, it's drying my eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, close meeting.
I gotta find my agenda. Have a night.
We potentially.
You know, next to Jay. He's on the list to upper 85.
Yeah, try it.
Those three items.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I live in Narrow.
And so I actually like they report.
Yeah.
And I'm like. I know, but we just, so, one, I think that, yeah. Next time, you know, whatever gets built. There's some. Is. Storyline. They need to do something. It's ongoing.
It might be.
You see.
Actual commitment is great.
Cities where.
And I've got all this.
It's like a little signal.
Yeah.
That. Just try and know that.
That's how to get it.
Down, like a little movement thing. And then it'll move things on.
Something that's not safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You know,
You don't need me around anymore, do you?
they have to.
Not done yet.
But I'm done.
You're gone, aren't you? Stay for the whole meeting.
Since you.
They can.
They need to continue with our meeting. We need to continue with our meeting.
Don't follow this guy, he can do. Always take it.
I'll talk to you in a bit.
The next item on the agenda is to review the minutes from October. If people have an opportunity to look at those.
Yeah, so that's good.
Do you have any comments?
I did not. They were beautiful.
It's all being done by AI now.
Is it really?
Nice.
Good job, ChatGPT.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of October, or, yeah.
Ginger moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Rob, seconds. Take a vote.
Approve.
John. Rob. Roger.
Yeah.
I wasn't here then.
John. And Sarah votes yes. Okay. So that's that. There's one decision that I'm working on that's outstanding from that last meeting. I'll work on it soon. That's the one from the corner of School Street and Crafts Court. The garage.
Okay, yeah.
We have 2 new applications for December.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
is that good or bad?
3 Eagle Head and 38 C Street.
Okay, single family homes.
They're both non-conforming homes doing
Shocked.
what?
I said shocked.
Shocking here and.
Well, you're the one that said that 80% of the homes in here are non-conforming anyway.
I
Right?
mean, look at it, it's
No,
all.
67%.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So what will happen on in December is we'll hear the 48 Norwood Ave first, and then Cargo, and then we'll move to the new applications.
Are the new applications ADUs? By any ch- or-
No, they're
Okay,
just,
great.
they're just. I mean,
Whatever
one of
they're
them-
doing.
One of them is,
We'll see the applications when they come in. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
but not nothing
They're
too,
relatively minor.
okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry, Jen. No more questions. I'm all done.
Anything else?
I gotta
Nope.
work in the morning.
So you, just getting on my count, so the 13th, which is that Saturday, you'll want to do the site.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Okay.
Site visits will be Saturday at 9:30. Then we'll do C Street, then Eagle Head. Since
You're right there.
that's on
Yeah.
my way.
Yeah.
I will,
C Street's one way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go from town.
I'll not be there for the site visits. I'll be out of the town, just so you
Okay.
know.
Anything else? Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Approved.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
No, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Great again.
I mean, I wouldn't mind.
I never did this.
That's what we're doing.
I completely forgot. I was gonna look up the bylaw. for the driveway.
I did look it up.
Yes.
Um,
I want to
Huh?
I want to know.
Yeah,
I don't care about that. It's just.
it has
they get
to
it.
be wider,
Would you? So
and
make
it
it.
has to be flat in the street.
Because,
And I'll vote yes.
yeah, it gives
You
you.
can't exceed 10%.
And I don't,
Um,
for instance, something else. I'll-
Go home, see your family.
Give me some words to- no, what's the concern is that-
So that my
Everything
idea
else.
would be,
Oh, shut.
it's not a common driveway until they have residences.
Well, they-
And because they're adding residences that may be in the common. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't.